I'm going to read a quote. I'm going to hold it up. Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until man is anchored in the divine. Everything in future will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now. And why have I read that out? The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until man is anchored in the divine. I have to say that's true. It's true of my life. It's true of my life, and it illustrates to me where do we have to start as men in society. So, the vanished lives of all men are full of shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until it is anchored in the divine. And if you've ever worked in business, then you will know that human conduct is ever unreliable. The intellectual sphere rules, and the mind rules. The ability to articulate and reason rules. And the kind of anchor point for conduct is money, power, greed. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the private sector or the public. Power, money, greed, status, rule, and it is horrible to look at, frankly. Yet when you meet someone who seems to be rooted in some decency, it's more the exception if they can hold to their basic integrity. I don't know whether I should be saying this, but I'm sort of saying it. Even the people who present themselves as friends and ask you to join their enterprise can easily, in the blink of an eye, turn around and cut your throat as if it didn't matter. Now, it might not matter in business, but it matters in life. If you've ever been up a mountain top and you're hanging off a rope and there's another person at the other end, you want to know the person at the other end isn't going to decide to go off and have a cigarette while you're dangling there. And you also want to know that they're going to complete the exercise with you. And we do seem to rely on each other in life. Even if we like to think that we're islands, we're relying on someone providing the water, we're relying on someone providing the electricity, we're relying on somebody building the roads, we're relying on somebody generating wealth. So in that kind of wider community, we are interdependent. I've often wondered, how can we have a better life? Way back, I recognized that in order to have a better life, I needed to do work on myself. Doing the inner engineering, to quote Sadhguru, even though I've not done his program, I just like the phrase inner engineering, is hugely rewarding on a personal level. So if you're interested in liberation, if you're interested in freedom, if you're interested in being a man, the answer is not in the mind. So if you're interested in being a man, the answer is not in the mind. So where is the answer? Where is the answer? If you're a young man, where should you be putting your attention? If you want in your life the wealth of liberation and freedom, and you want to feel like you are a man, that you've lived your life as a good man, to the best of your ability, but not to the best of someone else's judgment. So this has preoccupied me. When I was younger, I wanted to be a man. I would look at my father and I would think, yeah, he's got some really good qualities. I want to take those qualities on board. I'd look at other men and I'd say, they've got maybe different qualities. Maybe I could sort of add those qualities. And part of that looking, when I was looking around about how to be a man, was I think, well, do I have to be physically superior? Do I have to develop my muscle structure? Is that being a man? I thought, no, okay. Well, I can't be a man yet because I'm not old enough to drive a car. When I can drive a car, I will be a man. Or when I can get a motorbike, which my parents never let me do. But let's say, when I can get a car, I'll be a man. Now, it's not a car, is it? And then you think, well, when I get a girlfriend, I will be a man. Yeah? And it's not that either, is it? Because then if you don't know how to behave with yourself, how are you going to know how to behave with a woman? And then you think, oh, I know what it is. I've got to get a house. Then I'll be a man. No. Guess what? And then I've got, oh, I know, I'll get married and I'll, have children. Then I'll be a man. No. I know the next thing is I need to be the life and soul of the party. Then I'll be a man. No. And it takes a long time for these false gods to lose their appeal. And then you're sort of left with this kind of emptiness inside, a bit like a desert that's been baking in the sun for about 10 years. And you don't know how to live in the desert. You don't know where the waterhole is. So what is it? How do we do that? And why should we care anyway? I care because I am perplexed that the world that we live in, we have a number of leaders at the moment who think the answer is to blow each other to bits. And it strikes me that in the name of whatever it is, the nation state, in the name of a religion, name your religion, in the name of a religion, that people feel that it's okay to drop a bomb and destroy, kill people and infrastructure, and they call that leadership. They call it leadership. Now, okay, yeah, we need to protect ourselves, don't we? I'm not saying we don't need to protect ourselves. But you sort of wonder, what is the quality of these people? What are their qualities that are making these decisions? I think, first of all, I've got to say, look, all the things that I'm talking about, I've made these mistakes myself. I've made a lot of mistakes. Some have been through ignorance and not knowing what I was doing. Some have been through misuse of power, misuse of certain positions that I've had. And I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought I was doing the best that I could. And I thought that this is how a person in my position behaves. And eventually I was wondering, how do I be a man? I never really got there. I looked like a man, I walked like a man, and in my terms, given my background, I could fight like a man, I could do all of those things. Eventually I learned to articulate like a man instead, because people preferred to throw words at each other instead of throwing bricks. Anyway, the conclusion I came to was that the behavior of man is unreliable until it's anchored in the divine. I came to that conclusion by myself. Many different experiences, some of which you would classify as religious experiences, some of them you might say were yoga experiences. I came to the conclusion that I sort of knew, and that sort of knowing had always been with me, and I went off looking for it everywhere else in the world, and eventually, through some correct choices, I stumbled over the divine. When I say the divine, I'm talking about that unseen. I'm talking about the unseen, but it's not the unfelt. It is possible to feel the unseen. After a certain number of experiences, I was able to conclude that the only safe place for me was in the hands of the divine. And I don't mean an external force. I mean that divine nature within myself. If we can connect up that divine nature in ourselves, then we can experience the happiness of being a great human being. We can experience the happiness of being a man. We can also experience liberation and freedom from the tyranny of the mind and the tyranny of whatever society wants to lay down on you. It's a place where you can't be got at. It is the eternal spot within each person, which collectively makes an ocean of eternal spots, if you like. So all of this was relevant to me because I've been in business most of my life. What would we benefit from as a society, particularly in business? I was thinking about the business schools and the way that they educate, and the fact that it is, if you walk into a business school, you'll see it, the energy is really focused in and around the head. You don't need a degree in reading energy to see that that is where the energy is located. But the answer to most of my problems has not been in and around the head. I have found that the mind doesn't have the answer to me having a rich and juicy life as a human being. And if I was talking to any young man, I would say there are going to be a lot of imposters as you look out. There are going to be a lot of imposters, but your essential nature, your essential energy has an intelligence of its own, and it will be with you all your life, and it is the thing that's worth developing. And as you develop your internal energy, you're going to find that you have masculine and feminine energies inside your body. Or, to put it a different way, you're going to have a positive and a negative lead, if you think about car battery. And you need to join them together so the motor will start and the car will run. And it's the same in a bloke. And if you don't want to be thirsty throughout your life, you're going to have to develop both of those energies. That's not the purpose of this particular video. You have to find a way to do that. And the way you're going to do it is not going to be intellectual.